Yeah, so all you need for street photography is your phone. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. I'm just kidding. So yeah, look, you can take amazing street photographs with your phone. And to be fair, if you're a beginner and you don't have any camera gear at all, I definitely recommend taking your phone out for a walk just to test it out to see if you enjoy it before you invest in proper camera gear. For me though, I don't really like using my phone. It's not very flexible. I always feel like I'm gonna drop it or someone's gonna nick it or whatever, so I don't like to use my phone for street photography. As we all know, street photography gear doesn't make an amazing street photo. Street photographers do. It's the photographer themselves that is responsible for capturing that incredible moment. And of course, great gear helps us along with that, but it's not the be all and end all. Though to take any street photographs at all, of course, you're gonna need to have some kind of gear. So in this video, I thought it'd be cool to go through all the minimal gear that I use for my street photography and talk about the only gear you really need to go out and make amazing street photographs. I'll also talk about a few of the accessories that I find really useful in street photography as well. I'll start with the Ricoh GR system. So I don't actually own one of these cameras. I've never actually used one, but I keep hearing really good things about the little Ricoh system. You genuinely can just pick up a Ricoh camera, a couple of spare batteries, and go out and take an award-winning street photo. So if you want to have a really minimalist setup, I definitely recommend looking into cameras like that. For me personally though, I'm a fujifilm fan and I use the Fuji system for all my street photography. It's also really important to me to be able to change focal lengths, and you can't do that with a Ricoh point and shoot camera. As a beginner photographer, you can use any camera you want. You can pick up literally any camera and any kit lens and you can go out and take street photographs. And that's what I genuinely recommend, is either use your phone or pick up some cheap gear secondhand online. I do think mirrorless cameras are a good way to go though for street photography, because they tend to be a bit smaller, more compact, a little bit more discreet. And that's what I use with the Fujis, is the mirrorless system. Currently I've got two camera bodies that I use. The first one is my Fujifilm X-T2, and I've had this since it came out in, I think, around 2016. Now, I absolutely love this camera. It's been around the world with me. I've taken some of my favorite photographs with this camera, and the image quality still absolutely holds up today. Obviously, Fujifilm now are up to their 5th iteration of the camera, so you can pick up the X-T5. But yeah, for me, this body is just brilliant. I've also got the Fujifilm X-E4, which I picked up secondhand online from MPB. I picked it up because I wanted something a little bit smaller than my X-T2 body. It's got the slightly bigger sensor in it as well, and the Fujifilm film simulations that come along with that, which I really love to use to edit my images. But yeah, if you're new to photography, I definitely recommend looking for secondhand gear, especially lenses, because they hold up really well and you can save yourself a lot of money if you go secondhand. When it comes to lenses for street photography, if you're a beginner watching this video and you want to find out what you actually really need gear-wise for street photography, I definitely recommend starting out with a kit lens. Like an 18-55 zoom lens, it will be absolutely fine. And you can get some amazing street photographs with any camera system using the kit lens for that camera, 100%. So a lot of street photographers will talk about prime lenses and how those kind of lenses are what you really need to be an actual street photographer. Whatever, don't listen to that. I will talk about my prime lenses in a bit and why I don't have a zoom lens. But if you're just getting into it, I definitely recommend getting that kit lens, because you get to go out and practice and you get to experiment and see what you like. You know, over time you might decide you like shooting wider, or you might prefer shooting closer in, and that will inform how you see on the street and then what gear you might want to pick up going forward. So yeah, definitely recommend picking up a kit lens. So after I got more experience with a kit lens, a zoom lens, doing street photography, I found that it was stopping me from really reaching my full potential and taking the images that I wanted to take. Now, I know it sounds a bit hypocritical because I'm saying to first start off with a kit lens. You should, a zoom lens, try that out first. But I find that it can be hard to make a decision when you've got all the different focal lengths you can choose when you see a scene. So for me, I like to use prime lenses, which is a fixed focal length. Now it's quite restrictive because if you see a scene and your focal length doesn't cover that scene, you might miss the moment. But that's just sort of how the cookie crumbles, I guess, when it goes with street photography. But on the flip side of that, when you have a set focal length, you really start to see in that focal length. You start to see the world in a different way. And also the restriction kind of forces you to be more creative. And that's what I really love about using prime lenses. Now my favorite lens, my favorite focal length to shoot at on any camera system is a 50mm full frame equivalent lens. So I've got a crop sensor camera, which is an APS-C sensor, which means that a 50mm focal length is the 35mm prime lens. I love this lens. It pretty much always lives on my camera. and I've taken some of my favourite images with this lens. The focal length for me is not too wide, so it's not too much to think about to include in the frame, but also equally it's not too narrow and it doesn't sort of close off the scenes that you see. It's very similar to how the human eye sees, so yeah, 50mm lens, the nifty 50, which is what people call it, is just a great little lens and I love it. But for me also it's nice to change it up every now and then and try a different focal length, and also to try out different creative ideas and different techniques using other focal lengths as well. I've also got the Fujifilm 50mm f2 lens, so this one's about a 76mm full frame equivalent lens, and I tend to use this lens more when it's at night time. Having that sort of longer focal length gives me the opportunity to be a little bit further away from my subjects, compresses the scene a little bit more. I also tend to use this one when it's raining as well. And lastly, I picked up the 23mm f2 lens recently from MPB secondhand. I've barely used the lens yet, but I've really wanted to pick up this lens for quite some time because I really want to experiment with this focal length. So I've only really used the 50mm focal length or the 76mm focal length for I guess the past 3 or 4 years of my street photography. And I really want to start experimenting with different ideas that I've got. I want to be able to start experimenting more with including more in the frame, so that's why I picked up this lens too. With those 3 lenses together, for me, covers off all of the focal lengths that I'm interested in shooting, and they're small, compact, and easy to take around with me all day. Though I don't recommend taking lots of focal lengths out with you because that sort of defeats the purpose of having fixed focal length prime lenses. If you take out 2 or 3 lenses, you're always going to be wanting to change lenses, or you can't, the whole point of having a fixed focal length is just to force you into that one field of view so you can get used to that way of seeing and taking those photographs that you want to take with that camera. There are a few what I would consider essential accessories to have as a street photographer, and firstly that starts with a bag. Now, camera gear is quite expensive, you want to look after it, and you're going to be carrying it around with you all day on the street or travelling here and there, taking them on trips abroad or whatever. So having a really good backpack or a good sling bag is really important for your gear. Currently, for my daily carry-around bag, I'm using the Wotancraft 19-litre backpack. Now, a lot of street photographers prefer to use a smaller bag, a sling bag for example, but I find them quite uncomfortable, and I prefer having just a backpack when I'm out wandering the street. I should add that none of the products in this video are sponsoring me to say anything in this video. Wotancraft were kind enough to give me this bag recently to test out, but they're not giving me any money at all and they're not telling me to say anything, so everything in this video is just my own opinion about the products that I'm talking about. This particular bag is on the pricey side, but it is of premium quality and I know it's going to keep my gear safe, so I'll definitely be using this in the future when I go travelling and go out shooting on the street. Of course, you don't have to get a premium photography bag if you don't want to, but I do recommend picking up some kind of bag that's going to keep your gear safe. Buy some inserts, get them into your bag, look after your lenses, look after your gear, and keep them safe. And that also leads me into the next thing that I think is really, really important for every street photographer to have as an accessory. I love the Peak Design products, and for me, the wrist strap for Peak Design is brilliant. I have it attached to my camera always. I much prefer having a wrist strap to a neck strap because using a wrist strap means that your camera is always ready, as well as keeping it safe. If you drop it or if someone tries to nick it, you know that it's gonna be safe from that. So definitely recommend having a wrist strap. When I started using a wrist strap, it really changed my photography. I used to wander around the streets with it around my neck all the time. I'd miss moments or I'd just fumble with it around my neck just trying to get the shot off. It didn't quite work. As soon as I picked up a wrist strap, it really, really helped with my photography. So a couple of bonus tips is to have a great pair of walking shoes, trainers, whatever it is, but get a comfortable pair of shoes. Street photography is all about walking and walking some more and walking some more and walking some more and just exploring the area, looking for interesting things and trying to capture them with your camera. So a great pair of shoes is really, really important. Also, have you ever got out with your camera and you press the shutter, but the battery's run out, you've got no SD card, you've got no battery? It's a nightmare, and yeah, it's stressful and you're gonna miss shots like that. So all of those things have happened to me. I recommend getting some extra SD cards, I recommend getting some extra batteries, and just leaving a handful of those in your bag at all times. So no matter what, you then got them in your bag just in case. Next, you're going to want to have somewhere to keep your photographs safe after you've taken them. So I tend to use a hard drive, and I'll also put some photographs on cloud storage as well. So yeah, it's boring, that kind of stuff's really boring, but it's also really, really important because the last thing you want to do is go out and take some incredible images and then lose them. So that's something to bear in mind as well. And then finally is having a laptop and some editing software. I use Lightroom for all my editing, but there's plenty of editing software out there, some really good free ones as well, so definitely worth looking into the kind of editing software that you might want to find that will suit you and your photography down the line. So to briefly recap, all you really need for street photography is a camera body, any camera body, a kit lens that fits in that camera, or some prime lenses that fit with that camera, a handful of batteries, some SD cards, and a backpack to put them all in. And then you can go out there, not worry about your gear, and take some amazing street photos. Now, I mentioned earlier in the video that having gear is necessary to go out and do street photography, but it doesn't make you a great street photographer. So for some ideas of street photographs you might want to take and to see me go on a street photography walk with a voiceover explaining my thought processes and what I'm interested in, then check out this video here. Otherwise, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.